Hello, and welcome to the TerraLex Insights Podcast, where our goal is to present multicultural perspectives by leading professionals. These perspectives on contemporary issues help lawyers and business people work better together. I'm your host, Terri Pepper, TerraLex's CEO, and today I'm very happy to welcome to the podcast Jen Lindberg. Welcome, Jen. It's nice to
Thank you,
see you.
Terri. Yeah, nice to see you as well.
Jen is a member at BrownWinick, which is TerraLex's member firm for Iowa. And she was recently among a group of really spectacular women that were honored as being among an elite group of trailblazers during International Women's Month, which was last month in March. And we are highlighting many of the trailblazers on the podcast so that others can see what a remarkable group of women we have within the TerraLex network. So by way of introduction, I'm going to just read a little bit about some of the reasons that were cited for Jen when she was nominated as a trailblazer and why she was selected. Jen is a champion for women, both within and outside of the legal profession. She's dedicated her career to empowering the next generation of female leaders, breaking barriers, and fostering a more inclusive industry. Doing so helps shape her firm, BrownWinick's strategic vision, ensuring that gender equality, work-life balance, and mentorship remain priorities through service on the firm's strategic planning initiatives and also as chair of the Healthcare Law Practice Group. Beyond her firm, Jen's influence extends into the broader community through organizations such as Iowa. Look, I had a little missed there, but that's okay. We'll keep going. Through organizations such as the Iowa Legal Aid Board of Directors, which fantastic organization. I had a chance to volunteer down here in Florida. The Iowa Stage Theater Company, and the Des Moines Wine Festival Foundation. All of those things make me realize that Jen and I are really kindred spirits because they're all Jen is lauded as an exceptional mentor, fostering confidence and encouraging bold career moves and helping emerging leaders recognize their full potential. Her leadership is not just about personal success, but it's also about lifting others up as she climbs, which has been a really consistent theme this month within TerraLex during International Women's Month. So welcome to the podcast, Jen. So happy
Thank you. Yeah, Terri, thanks for having me.
So as a starting point, maybe you could share with us some of the initiatives or programs that you've helped to implement at your firm that really empower people, women or others.
Yeah, so, I've really enjoyed getting to be more involved in the kind of firm management and leadership over the past few years. BrownWinick is a tremendous place to work, and we've experienced a lot of growth. So when I started in 2018, Terri, we had 74 lawyers, and now we're well over 100. So that's a 30% growth in about, 5 years?
Yeah, that's
so it's a lot. So it's a great foundation to build on because we've been very successful. So it's how do we continue to build off of and stand on the people that built us, this wonderfully small little group of people who built this firm into this big firm. So being in strategic planning has been really fun for me to get involved. I think back to one of the first times I really felt that you can make a difference in your workplace like this. So a couple of years ago, we remodeled one of the floors in our firm, and it was a more modern design. So there's, I have glass on my window right here. And at the time I was pregnant. And so I said, well, that could be complicated when I come back. Okay. And they said, well, we'll do a mother's room on a different floor. We didn't know we had room. So I was able to kind of advocate for myself and some of the other women. And now we have a nice mother's room on our floor. So that was kind of a really big light bulb moment for me of when you talk to people and explain your needs in a way that can help people understand what it means to be a full-time working mom in a law firm. Little things like that can help. And so being on our strategic planning, I've really enjoyed taking a look back from decisions we're making and how do they impact our staff? How do they impact the attorneys and kind of everyone who falls in between? Because I think at law firms, it's easy to default to the lawyer mentality, right? When lawyers are running the firm, that's just who we are as people, right? But we are so successful because of everyone else here too. Right. So some of the other initiatives we've been working on are really building out our HR department here to even grow and add more strategic support there. So we hired a chief people officer to help us really start driving and managing some of these initiatives, which for a firm of our size, I think is unique and puts us ahead of the market and moving that forward. Right. So that's been really important to highlight our people and really focus our planning on our people right now. And we've had really great success in keeping people, which in this market, is just as tough. So those initiatives have been really fun to work on as well.
That's excellent. Yeah, when you were talking about advocating for the mother's room, I can remember many years ago, my daughter's a grown woman at this point, but we didn't have that opportunity, and you couldn't have advocated for it. And I do recall the managing partner walking in on a partner that was in it, let's say, doing her job as a mother.
Yes.
We couldn't even lock our doors back then. It was really crazy. So I'm glad progress is made.
Yes. Well, it's uncomfortable enough, right? Because you're already worried about carving out the time. You're worried about the sound. Like, can people hear me? Or, it's already a stressful time. And we're lucky. We see a lot more young women, coming out of law school and into our firms. Terri, I'm sure we're not the only ones. Right. So it's how can we make sure we're fleshing out our leave policies to be more advantageous to moms, dads, adoption, all of these things, right, are really important to kind of be at the front of. I mean, yes, that helps us as a firm to be able to market that, but I think then it builds loyalty and dedication in your people. When you're investing in them, they see that, right? And then they want to give that back to you too.
It's definitely one of the reasons probably why you can retain people as your firm does, because you're making it easy to stay there rather than have to leave to fulfill your job as a parent versus your
the job is hard. Yeah,
that's great.
Exactly. The job is hard enough, Terri. So what can we do to make it? I mean, we can never make it easy and stress-free, right? It's kind of the job we signed up for, but how can we try to meet people where they are and help them to be able to thrive and succeed for us and for themselves? Yeah.
Well, and that helps me see why you've been described as an excellent mentor and someone who lifts others up. What are some of your tips for others who want to learn how to be effective mentors? Because it's not something that people are just always born with.
No, and it's not always born with, and I think people can be scared to think they're not going to be good at it. When I think a mentee is just looking for authenticity, really, and maybe their personalities don't match, and maybe you're not a good mentee, but you kind of have to. I've always found success in just being who I am and being open and always trying to find the balance of being honest, right? But also, because it can be hard to be like, yes, this is just the job. I'm sorry, you have to do the project, right? But also trying to find some honesty and challenges I've had and trying to use those as an example while not saying that's the only way to do things, And I think it's just I try really hard to just have an open door on the days when I'm here, and just when that means, yes, there's kind of sometimes people coming in all day, but you could tell right away on a younger lawyer's face if they're coming in and they're upset. You know what I mean? You can just kind of see people. Yes. And so just using that empathy muscle to say, okay. And while in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm trying to get this project out, but it's like, they need something from me, right? So how can I be present and carving out the time to just be there? I think is my biggest tip for people. Just really show up, and it's easier than you think to provide support to people. It doesn't have to be, a whole production. It's just really showing up for people.
I always try to remember because, we have a medium-sized team but someone's always reaching out for something. And I try to remind myself they can't finish their work if I'm not there to help them answer their question. And then that's a great cycle. That's the opposite of what the culture that we want. So I've always a mentor. Yeah.
That's great. And always remember we were those young lawyers once, right? And when I started my practice in Chicago, I was very lucky to get placed on a team with 2 associates, like much more senior associates. And they just really took me under their wings and were so just kind and supportive. And anytime I had a question, they would answer it for me. And so I almost feel like I'm kind of putting it back out there, right? I'm paying that back because I benefited so much from that.
That's fabulous. I do hear that a lot from people that are effective mentors, is they feel like they had a good role model on how to be a mentor when they were coming up. So that's great.
And I will say too, in my mentors, they were great. They were 2 great guys, right? But then it's always nice. My team now, all of the associates in our litigation group are all women. So it's been a really interesting flip to have. And I have some wonderful female mentors, who are other partners with me here. So there's something I always like having that it's just different, right? To have a a female as a mentor. So I like to provide that too.
Well, and in fact, within TerraLex, we have at times facilitated a female having a mentor from another firm or another country, if that's helpful to them. And we that offer stands for anyone who might want us to help pair people up. So
that's great, because not all firms are as, we're lucky. We actually have more female attorneys than male attorneys right now. Or we're right close. It depends when our new lawyers start in the fall. But so that's something that we're lucky to have here for our young people. Yeah,
absolutely. So you've also taken your empowerment and your leadership efforts beyond the firm, and sounds like in a variety of civic organizations. Let us know a little bit about your work with Legal Aid and some of the other organizations. And I mentioned Legal Aid to me is a fantastic organization. I had the opportunity a few years ago to be on a task force that worked with the local legal aid through an organization I'm in, and I was so impressed with their work. So tell us a little bit about how that works in your life.
Yeah, so I serve on the board for the Iowa Legal Aid Foundation, which is helpful, kind of the fundraising arm for the regular legal aid group. And so it's been great to get our firm more engaged. And that I think we as lawyers really have a duty and a call to help provide counsel to all of those who need it. And so I just get to go and help them raise money, and just get to go, to these meetings. They always bring staff who explain to us all the work that they're doing. Our legal aid here is doing some tremendous work by placing their attorneys in schools, because that's such a hub for families who maybe are in need or could need some support. So we have just an absolutely fantastic legal aid team that I'm really happy to support. And, as I've been able to carve out more time to do other work, you mentioned I'm on the board at Iowa Stage Theater Company. I'm the vice president of the board there. And I'm a theater kid. My husband's a theater professor. And so I just love the arts, and it's such a good way to look at the world we live in and find community and storytelling. And I'm a big nerd about it, Terri. So it's been
we need that now. Definitely.
Yes, well, more than ever. Yes, we need to tell stories, and it's been fun. It's exposure to a lot of different people in the community, which I've really enjoyed. And so being able to lend, I'm not an onstage person, Terri, by any means. So it's been nice to get the call of, sometimes people just call the lawyer on the board for stuff. And so if I can help in that way, it is a way to participate and be involved without feeling like I have to be. No one wants me to be the person on stage either. So this is a good way to
I've always wanted to be the diva singer, but I can't carry a tune in a bucket. So I never had my chance.
Same, right under the lights, like enjoying it. But no, I just get up and I get to thank all the donors for coming and pass it off to the next. But it's been a nice way to build community in Des Moines as well.
Yeah. And I love that you're blending different interests into your civic involvement, which is fantastic. So, where does this passion to help others grow come from? You mentioned some of your prior mentors who lifted you up. Any other forces that made you feel like it's, something that you wanted to do?
And I was thinking about that, Terri, before we came on today. I grew up, my parents worked in hospitals my whole life, so they kind of lived this service capacity. My aunts and uncle, a lot of them work as social workers or teachers. And I think, lawyer, those aren't always considered the same, right? But I think it's hard to pinpoint. I can't pinpoint it to one person, but I grew up in a house where everyone helped, right? Yes. We were a team and we all shared the load and worked together. I was lucky to grow up in a house where my mom worked. And so that was normal to see that she was out there and she was a nurse, so making a difference in many people's lives daily. And so I think it just is something that as I've grown in my profession, I've just derived a lot of, it just kind of happens. I don't know. I wish I had an answer of one day I clicked and was doing this, but I do get Pollyanna about it, Terri, sometimes, because I do think
wrong with that.
You know what I mean? We're all better when we're all better. Fundamentally, I think that. And if it's me, taking on an extra little thing to help somebody else to benefit other people in the firm, I'm always going to do that. Right.
Yeah. It's also a way to enjoy your life more, I think.
Yes.
It sounds like it was hardwired into you, this service mentality from the very beginning, and service to others sounds like it was something you grew up with. So that's fantastic.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure and other, people in law firms, sometimes there's a tension there between if I'm out advocating one of the things I'm trying to work on is to do a little more advocating for myself and maybe see where those goals are, because I am so focused and I love building up and highlighting other people, right? So if I had dedicated the last 5 years to building a book of business exclusively, right, would my career look different? Maybe, but I'm really happy in this capacity as well. So there is always sometimes a sense that you can't have it both. And I don't know that I know the answer to that, right? But it's an interesting discussion.
Pollyanna, as you say, you are, I would have to agree. And I'm the same way. And I've lived my life this way, and I'm a lot older. And I would say eventually what you learn is all the giving back comes back to you in some way, shape, or form down the road in a way you never even expected that will benefit you. So it's that's not why you do it, but that is a side benefit.
Well, yeah. And I always think I don't want, like, if I die, I don't want the first line to be like, Jen was a great lawyer with a huge book of business. Like, that's not what I want to be to the people in my life.
Yeah.
But, and to the people who do want that, that's great too. And I certainly benefit from that in my own way, right? So you kind of need all of that,
right?
And in different businesses to really be successful, because that's thriving for other people,
right?
To be out and like just loving that mentality. And if that makes them happy, that makes them happy. And we should support them doing that too, right?
Totally agree. Agree. So what's next for Jen? What are your, what kind of goals do you have and things you want to do in the future?
So it's interesting from a personal perspective. My youngest is in kindergarten. So we're kind of out of this.
Yeah.
We're in it, but we're kind of out of that really little kid phase. And I had another friend of mine describe it. She's like, the fog of motherhood is like starting to lift as my kids are bigger. So it's like a different kind of thing. So I feel like I do have more time to invest in myself and in the firm for what's coming next.
Yeah.
And honestly, Terri, I'm trying to figure out what that looks like. Like, what do I want to spend more time being out there on the road and doing that? Or I would love to continue investing in the firm and improving my leadership capacity and skills and continuing to focus in that realm and, enjoy the next phase of my life with my kids too. Right. So that's continuing to work towards I don't know. I wish I had a clearer answer.
Well,
for you, but I'm trying to figure that out myself.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much. And just as a reminder to everyone, we've been talking to Jen Lindberg from BrownWinick in Iowa, who is one of TerraLex's Trailblazing Women during our International Women's Month. We thank you so much for joining the podcast. I'll ask you to stay on even when we're done for just a moment, if you don't mind. And we will look forward to seeing what you do next. We didn't even talk about the Wine Foundation. I forgot about that one, but that one also is of interest.
That is a fun one, Terri. Yes, that's a fun one. Yes, thank you very much for having me, and thank you to TerraLex for the honor. Yep, thank you.
Yes, well deserved.